2,000 kilocalories of glucose. That's with the liver and in its cells, okay? Your body can hold over 40,000 in stored fat. Some of us weigh more than others. Big fat Italian Jamie had plenty. But if you were to put yourself in a state of nutritional ketosis, you'll actually be able to utilize those a lot faster. A good example of that is there any runners in here? Anybody familiar with running a marathon or some of the side effects of running a marathon and bonking? For a long, long time, and it's starting to shift finally, I've noticed in some of the running blogs and stuff like that, is they'll say to carb load, carb load, carb load, and then they do all these gel packs and stuff like that. What they're trying to do is draw out that 2,000 kilocalories of stored sugar. But inevitably in 23.2, am I right? 23. Well, a lot of miles, you're going to run out, right? Power lifter, not runner. You're going to run out, and then you're going to bonk. Which bonking really is doing is switching over to nutritional ketosis on the fly. And then that's where they get that boom lightheadedness from, okay? So switching over to a state of nutritional ketosis, and I'm starting to see more and more runners do this, is you'll actually avoid that bonk and be able to just run right through. Okay, so if you start the race there, you have no problem, switching over because you're already there. Here's some information. Have you guys ever? All right, there's the key. Okay, so have you read Finney's low carbohydrate performance book? Okay, this is a screenshot out of there, and they did a lot of this studies. Actually, look at the dates. 1983. They did a lot of these studies already in the early 80s. This information has been around a long, long time, and you're just now finally starting to see it mainstream. Okay? For performance athletes, and they actually have the Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living, which I really recommend for the people who want to get into the science of this thing. Utilizing and actually burning more stored fat. The reason being is you don't have to burn through that first 2,000 kilocalories first. So one of the arguments I used to make is when I used to train at a traditional gym a lot of times is you see a lot of bodybuilders spending hours and hours and hours and hours on the stepper. And I know that a big part of their diet would be like a grilled chicken breast and some type of carbohydrate, usually rice or oatmeal or something like that. They're just choking down. And I remember having this discussion, I don't want to say argument, discussion with a good friend of mine who was really into it, and he's really sciencey. His name's Todd Lee. He's a great, great guy. I would have this argument with all the time. I would be like, why don't you just portion out a chicken breast and a piece of cake? If it's a monosaccharide is going to be glucose anyway, why don't you at least enjoy what you have? I said also, your insulin response is going to be a lot faster, going to come up and come down because it's a refined carbohydrate instead of dragging out all day, and you might not have to spend 3 hours on the step mill. And Todd was sciencey, so he eventually understood that, but it was when I was learning and going through this transitional phase, it was a lot of questioning that because I got most of my information from a magazine called Muscle and Fiction. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. And to their defense, though, to Muscle and that, I've wrote for them too. And to not the defense of the magazine, but the defense of the authors. I've written for them too. And when that magazine comes out, that article was not what I wrote because they had to make room for an ad. And they got to pay the light bill too, so I understand that. But I was reading it going, I don't even know where they got that, So don't shoot the messenger or the author on that one. A lot of times they're, follow the money, right? That always gets in the way. So here's some advantages of being in a state of nutritional ketosis. Steady fuel source for the brain. Protein preservation for lean body mass. I get that question in the beginning all the time. Don't I need carbs for my lean body mass? Well, if you actually let your body get into a state of nutritional ketosis or fully keto adapted, and fully keto adaptation happens within 4 to 6 weeks. It's not as soon as you see ketones on a pea stick. Your body will actually preserve more. It'll be more muscle sparing because your body will actually have more blood level amino acids at that point. It'll know what it's doing. It'll recognize ketones as a fuel source at that point. You're going to have less accumulation of lactate, better pH control. We mentioned that already with the CO2 function. Improved endurance. Okay, so one of the things that I've noticed with my CrossFit stuff and my training is I can do a powerlifting workout that lasts an hour and a half and then do an hour of CrossFit of any caliber, still beat the high school kids, and do it again if I had to. That is one big thing. That big fat Italian Jamie that was up there before was a nap-taking guy. He liked his naps. I come home from work, take a nap, go to the gym, take a nap, eat dinner, go to bed. One of the things I noticed being in nutritional ketosis is a lot better, like I said, energy levels over long periods of time and not getting hungry. I can do that same workout without having to eat. I can show up at the gym on an empty tank because I'm keto adapted. I have those 40,000 plus kilocalories of energy ready to go. I don't have to fill my glycogen stores, right? Because I'm not worried about it. I'm ready to go. I'm running on ketones. A little side note, I mentioned 4 to 6 weeks to get keto adapted. If you're an athlete and you hit that 6 month mark, 6 to 8 month mark, I've had a couple of people I've had this discussion with, you will feel like a superstar. You will feel like a rock star if you train. You hit that 6 month mark and stay completely keto adapted. At least that's been my experience with the few people that I've talked to that have done it. Something happens again. And I've actually had a discussion briefly with Stephen Finney when I was at Vail. I keep bringing him up because he's one of the experts in the field. And we'll hopefully get to talk to him more about it when I go to Breckenridge next month. But it's almost at a brain level. And to summarize or give you the Cliff Notes version, it's almost like your brain recognizes that this is the fuel source and this is the potential we have. Let's go. You know, glucose isn't coming back. The poison isn't coming back anytime soon. Okay? So, faster recovery, better body composition. You know, I leaned right out, going from a normal paleo over to a ketogenic diet. Better improved long-term and distance. I've actually run a 5K in ketosis and then PR'd on my deadlift the next day. And like I said, I'm not a runner. That should have wrecked me, right? The only thing I can attribute it to was the fact that I was in nutritional ketosis. Increased body fat burning, we mentioned that before. You're already in a ketogenic state. You're already utilizing that as a fuel source. Better VO2 maxes because of the whole CO2 production. This is one of the kickbacks you get when you mention a ketogenic diet. What's the difference between ketosis and ketoacidosis? It's like comparing a tsunami to a light mist. Okay? If you happen to test your blood level ketones and you're not type 1 diabetic, you'll probably stay in the 0.5 to 5 millimolar range. Little sub note here, don't take that as gospel. If you train heavily and been keto adapted a long time, your millimoles of ketones might actually be a little lower than the 0.5 regularly. Don't start chasing ketones if you're getting results. Okay, just a little side note there. The difference between someone who's in ketoacidosis is someone who's like 25 to 50 millimolars and also have an elevated blood sugar level. Okay, so if anybody, unless you're type 1 diabetic, you should have no reason to worry about that at all. Okay, there should be no fear of you going into ketoacidosis unless you're type 1 diabetic. And if you're paying attention to your macros, I know a lot of successful type 1 diabetics. Doc Kevin out of Florida, he's a huge resource. He's a type 1 diabetic athlete. Dr. Keith Runyon, who is a phenomenal researcher on type 1 diabetes and ketogenic diets. Another great guy that we got to meet on the first low-carb cruise. Also, Hannah, I'm gonna butcher your name if you're watching, Hannah, sorry. Bohethius, she's actually hosting the Low Carb Universe where I'm going to speak in Spain next year. She's a very successful type 1 ketogenic diabetic as well. All right, so here's a little blurb because this is becoming new and exciting. Okay, so is ketosis or nutritional ketosis the cancer killer? I'm not going to say a whole lot about that because not a lot of the research has been released yet. I'm actually going to Tampa in February too. February's busy for me. and the Epigenics Foundation Nutritional Therapies Seminar. They're going to have a lot of talk about this. Dr. Dominic D'Agnosto is doing a lot of research on this, and he's going to be speaking at that. So I hope to find out a lot more information on that. But Cliff Notes version real quick is, anybody familiar or have heard of a PET scan before, the positron emission tomography? Okay. What that really looks for in your body is an upregulation of glucose metabolism. That's how it finds out where the cancer is. So you have this cell that's just eating up a ton of sugar. Okay, so cancer is a modern disease. It didn't exist in that Paleolithic era before we had all these refined carbohydrates, high sugars, high insulin levels. Okay, it doesn't know what to do with ketones, is what they're theorizing. Allegedly. I have to throw allegedly in all this because not all the science is out, right? So that kind of is the smoking gun. If you guys Google Keto Pet Sanctuary, which is another great organization, what these guys are doing, and the parent company of that is actually Epigenics too, what they're doing is they're adopting pets that have naturally occurring cancers, mostly dogs. I think it's all dogs. Sorry if that's wrong, but I think it's all dogs. And they adopt your Poochie, and if it has cancer, they'll take it to this beautiful farm in Texas where they have their own PET scan machine and formulated ketogenic diets and put it on human-grade therapy in a ketogenic way to treat these dogs, okay? I want to say the last time I talked to them, they were at like a 98% success rate with this. And I've seen pictures of dogs with legs that were completely tumor blown out. 3 months later, just hairless, tumor gone. It's just amazing. The success rate that they've had so far in the short time that they've been open has been phenomenal. Great group of people. Excuse me, not a research facility, you know, in the evil way that you'd imagine them, but truly people trying to help these pets. Okay. Here's the other kickback, because friends will see you eat a lot of meat and a lot of bacon and stuff like that. Well, what about my cholesterol? Okay, so first off, the big argument right off the bat is, you know, they hang their hat on this total cholesterol number, and there's absolutely no correlation or association between that and any type of coronary heart disease or any type of issues at all. It has never been proven. They've never found anything to find that. That number is nothing. As a matter of fact, they're finding better brain health with elevated cholesterol levels because your brain consists mostly of cholesterol. Your body needs cholesterol. It's actually a big repair molecule. It's also the basis of almost all our hormones. It's actually the base structure of a lot of our hormones. Almost every cell in your body makes its own cholesterol, being on top of that. So just a reminder, here's the story that they try to tell you is good guys versus bad guys. You got a high density lipoprotein versus a low density lipoprotein. Now, first of all, therein lies the smoking gun. This is a lipoprotein. This isn't the cholesterol. This is the cholesterol carrying molecule. Okay, LDL carries cholesterol from the liver to the cells that need it, and HDL is the one that carries it back. One of the issues I had when I switched from paleo, or when I was doing standard paleo, is I told you all my blood numbers came around, they got better. There was one that didn't, and that was my HDL cholesterol, or the good guy cholesterol. I couldn't raise that thing with a crane, you know, and I was taking niacin, flush niacin, no flush niacin, looking for pectin. You know, they say, well, drink a glass of wine. I go, no, you don't have to drink a glass of wine. It's pectin in grapes that actually is what helps with your cholesterol, but, you know, they like to sell wine. I was doing all those things, running, all this kind of stuff. I couldn't raise my HDL with a crane until I went ketogenic. And I started having more of the base fats that my body needed to make my HDL. It went up like 18 points the first time. And I struggled with that thing forever. Doctor's like, oh, it's probably hereditary. Here, take this niacin. Completely blown out. You know, run. I go, I am running. You know, I'm working out. I'm eating paleo. You know, and I was like, I don't know. You know, we look at this, and I'm at like 201. He wants to put me on a statin. I'm like, no. So this is actually the way this happens is we have some type of stress in an arterial wall. And let me go back a slide real quick. What you really need to look for, they say LDL is the bad guy, HDL is the good guy. It's the integrity of your LDL that you need to look for. LDL comes in type A and type B, and they don't run this test unless you beg or scream for it or pay for it yourself, or you happen to mention that all your relatives died of heart attacks, and then insurance will cover it. Then you can get this test taken care of. And it's the integrity of your LDL that you need to look for. Is you want a nice, big, fluffy, healthy LDL molecule, which comes from a fat-based diet. You don't want a dense, small, or very low-density LDL, VLDL is what they call it, that actually comes from a high-carbohydrate diet, which is a dense, oxidative type of cholesterol or lipoprotein. And what actually happens is when you have a lot of that small LDL, is that if you have a damage in an arterial wall, your lipoproteins will come to battle with that very low density lipoprotein, and it'll be oxidative and cause extra oxidative stress in the epithelial walls of your arteries, which is bad, but it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. Cholesterol is a repair molecule. It's doing its job, okay? But if you have a lot of that VLDL, or the type B LDL protein, the dense ones, that's where you're going to run into issues. And it's actually, that whole process is a natural process, the whole repairing the arteries. So we've had stress from an evolutionary standpoint, and we're going to have lesions and stuff like that in arterial walls and stuff like that. That's nothing new. Cholesterol comes to the job, it patches the thing. The problem is when that patch bursts, okay? And then it goes downstream to a small capillary bed, blocks something off, and then there's no blood flow to, say, your brain, or a very important part of your brain. So when do those fibrous patches burst? Well, again, here we go back to grains. Wheat contains lectin, WGA. Once bound to red and white blood cells, it upregulates metalloproteinases, which cause the cap to rupture. Disrupt this fibrous cast, breaks down and goes downstream to form a clot, which is what causes heart attack and stroke. Okay, so again, here's another one of those anti-evil nutrients coming from grains. So we have your body doing its job, repairing and patching, and you got this patch there, and then you have this other anti-nutrient coming from grains again, busts that cap open, or causes it to be unstable, goes downstream and causes that heart attack or stroke. Well, if it's not really my bacon that's causing issues, what is it? Elevated blood sugar can cause stress. Remember I had that slide before that had all that poison levels at your systemic level? Stress, I don't know how we dodge that one. If anyone has a good reliever for that one, let me know, because I'm looking about how to relieve stress. I spread myself way too thin, try owning a gym. And smoking. Smoking is a big stressor on your arterial walls and cause stress, okay? So that being said, if they're not testing your total cholesterol level, Jamie, and people are still having heart attacks and stroke, what are some true indicators of what should I get tested? What should I write down and ask my doctor to test? Okay, check your homocysteine levels, okay, C-reactive protein, CoQ10 levels, your insulin levels, and like I said, your LDL density particle size. Your doctor is not going to want to run these tests, okay? Bring something up. Grandma and Grandpa had a heart attack. So did and if you don't say if they're still with you, but so did Mom and Dad. Runs in the family. Then you can get these tests taken care of. Okay, these are pretty good indicators. You got that? These are true inflammatory indicators, and I think that if you're truly conscious about your health, these are the ones that you should take a look at. I can post these on the event page too. And I'm not saying these are the only ones. I'm just saying that these are some pretty good ones. I got these out of Dr. Sears' Doctor's Heart Cure book. I'll post a picture of that. All right, Jamie, so you gave us a ton of information. We're sold. How do I eat? And like I said, I leaned into this lifestyle, right? Okay, you didn't get this, Jamie. You had Tubby Fat Italian Jamie. That's how he started. He leaned into this. And I was very, very successful with a standard paleo diet. I can't take that away. Okay? That was awesome. And I did really well at it. The majority of you in this room would probably do phenomenal at it unless you're really metabolically damaged at some level. You have some type of diabetes, you have some type of insulin resistance, you have some type of other kind of information going on, some bad stuff. Very successful at it.